is to build in various jurisdictions. And this is just to allow this sort of global membership to our residents, so they can flexibly and freely travel between the towns, which also helps to mitigate tax burden to some sort if you stay in a location less than 6 months generally. And so we've been looking at various locations within Europe, within the U.S. actually too. Texas is a somewhat freedom-loving state, so we've been looking in there as well. But it is an ambitious project, of course. Like you said, 100 towns because before 2034. So it's big, it's ambitious. We're setting big goals for ourselves, but we're starting small. And so with Portugal, we have a team of roughly 14 people, of us, including architects, including sustainability pros, including our marketing team, including, visuals, digital stuff, AI, all of that, of course. And we're all working, well, day and night. No, not like that. We take breaks too, but it is intense, of course. But our architects, they keep working on the structure of the town. We pretty much have everything ready, basically. The architecture of the town itself. Of course, there will be deviations, some sort of deviations in every town. They will not be a copy of each other. Every town will be individual, just like we are.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, right now we're very much focused on Portugal.
Super interesting. Yes, I was at the gathering for a day,
Yeah, how
and
was that?
it was good. I mean, look, haven't been to any festival since 2019, so it was quite a lot for me, and I've been
Yeah.
only like at conferences, so it's a different story. And yeah, I just sense how deeply we need to come together at this time, how deeply we need a space to live and not just come in and out. There's a big trend in these pop-up cities, right? Like Zuzalu and Edge and so on. Do you plan to do some kind of like pop-up city in the beginning so people can test how to live and what kind of people that will be attracted to this place? How do you plan to onboard people? I don't
Yeah,
like the word onboard. I guess invite people
I
to
get
your
it. Yeah, yeah,
towns.
yeah. We have considered a pop-up town, and we haven't completely thrown it off the table. It is still a possibility, but perhaps rather than a pop-up event or a pop-up town, whatever you want to call it, we're kind of looking into throwing this community event. So, similar to where you have just been, a short-term gathering where people can, mingle, get to know each other, and just make sure that they vibe, kind
Right.
of.
Yeah.
However, what is really important to, all of our towns eventually, will be the resident contract. Like I said, every lover of freedom is welcome. Everyone who values their life is welcome. However, there will be the so-called resident contract that everyone will enter into when they wish to live in a freedom town. However, short or long term, because we welcome both short term and long term residents. But the resident contract will essentially, state all the terms and conditions of one's stay in a freedom town. And it covers A to Z of the stay, including the rented facilities, of course housing, and then all of the amenities that we offer, the farming spaces that I mentioned a while ago, along with many others. So essentially, just like you sign a contract if you're leasing an apartment, this will be a similar sort of contract that every resident will need to abide by if they wish to live in a freedom town. And should the contract be violated one way or another, we do have a dispute resolution company that we work with.
Nice.
That is meant for smaller sorts of disagreements. And should there be a bigger violation, whatever it is, then obviously the resident contract will be terminated. But similar to the concept of a citizen contract, which is again what free private cities are kind of run by, the contract can only be changed bilaterally by both sides. So the operator, which is us, Freedom, and then by the residents. It cannot be changed just by one party, by the operator, similar to what nation states do on a daily basis to no one's satisfaction but their own, right? And so again, we want to make it as free, as private, as voluntary as possible. However, there will be certain rules just to make sure that no property is violated, and so on. So this is really what selects people from one another. If someone does not resonate with the resident contract, they're of course by no means you know obliged to sign or they will not be forced in absolutely any way. Again, the town is for whoever wants to live there, but they do need to agree with the contract.
Yeah, so the contract, and then makes me think about the laws or the rules. How do you go about creating those? What kind of jurisprudictions, let's say, you're inspired by? Yeah, and what is that dispute resolution organization that I'm curious about that, if you want to share about this.
Yeah, sure. So the dispute resolution company is actually based here in the Czech Republic as well. They're called Disputio, TIO. And this is what they deal with. This is their business. They, settle small disagreements. So it's no, no hardcore violations of, international business law or even like of the regular laws of a given country, but rather small disagreements between, two tenants, two residents, stuff like that. So that is Disputio. In terms of the contract that we're putting together, we want to draft it together with Tipolis, which is a company also run by Titus Gabel, who is the head of the Free Cities Foundation, which I mentioned. Tipolis is his for-profit company that is actually involved in the building of these free cities. And so this is where we draw a lot of inspiration from, because we also have a legal team. However, theirs is more experienced in this realm, and so we work with them for the resident contract. However, we have our own sort of ethics that we abide by, all of us on the team, and these are anarcho-capitalist or libertarian values anyway that most of us have been fans of anyway previously. So we really, honor the live and let live principle, letting everyone breathe freely without imposing on each other. The non-aggression principle, of course, no initiation of physical force or even non-physical force, non-violent communication, of course. It might sound dreamy, but again, it is the resident contract that it will be set in stone, quote unquote, to make sure that these, really high values in a way are not violated, and they're respected by everyone in the community, including the operator, which is again freedom itself.
Right, makes sense. Super. Yes. Look, I'm very curious of what's your personal interest in that? Like I love Czech Republic. I think it's a very edgy place out of all Europe. I think it has the biggest amount of people who are anarchists that I've met. So why you're still guided to leave and build elsewhere, like on a personal level, I wonder.
Yeah, that is a great question. The Czech Republic is a really nice country. I have spent almost all of my life, not all of it, but the majority of my life here. And it is a beautiful country. However, me personally, I'm really drawn to nature, and living in the city has really not been speaking to me so much, in recent years. This is also how Freedom was born. Again, it was Or Software, who is behind the company. He was living in China back in 2020 when freedom was born. And you can imagine China during that time. And so he quickly realized, how cities have been becoming, a lot more restrictive and a lot more expensive to live in.
Yeah.
And a similar thing here is happening in Prague. And so, the plan with freedom is to offer the same comforts of living within a city, but in the middle of nature, in a rural setting. So, in the greenery. And this is something that speaks to me really, really deeply and closely, because I love being surrounded by nature. We have a ton of studies on forest bathing and stuff like that, but I don't think these studies are needed even.
Right.
I mean, I don't know about you. I don't really trust any studies anymore. I just go by my intuition.
Yeah.
But I just really love being in nature. And this is one of the main reasons why freedom really speaks to me. Because, rural living can be tough. I mean, if you look at perhaps our grandparents' generation, they were worn out. Like, it's no fun, like taking care of a farm, of like farm animals, stuff like that, day and night, from morning to night. Like, it's a lot of work. And so just bring a lot more tech into it, like cutting edge and high tech into it, just makes it a lot easier. And this is really exciting for me. So the greenery, I did mention the Azores as well. I love Portugal in general, both mainland Portugal and the Azores. They have a really special place in my heart. But it's also just the concept on which freedom is actually built on. Again, live and let live, the non-aggression principle, all of the things that I have mentioned so far. This is something that I've been, dabbling with and involved with for, over a decade of my life so far. It really all started with when I read Atlas Shrugged when I was 18. So that's well over a decade now. And I've always kind of been wired this way towards freedom, and perhaps this is because of the history of this country. My parents grew up in a communist country. Both the 50s, the 70s were harsh here, like no fun at all. I mean, people still made a living, of course. They were able to enjoy their lives one way or another, but you can maximize it a bit more. And so, I was born into a free Czech Republic, actually. But it can always be a little better, right? It can be worse and it can be better as well. And yeah, it's just, the notion of creating something new where you get to spend time with people who are wired similarly to you. Because, as nice as it is to keep an open mind and to subject yourself to different opinions, to be able to argue about them, calmly in a nonviolent matter, it's all good. But if you're surrounded by people who share your views, your values, it kind of makes it all the more exciting.
Sure.
And so just like you said a while ago, it's really nice to spend a day within such a community, but it's a lot better if you actually get to live there long term.
Definitely.
So that's what I'm after.
That's the goal. I feel like we're setting up a certain protection for ourselves. Yeah, we don't know what's gonna be happening in the future with the cities, but I completely agree with you that it's time to start being very serious about getting out of the big cities and creating self sufficiency, not just by ourselves, but with a group of aligned individuals. Speaking about self sufficiency, how much you think they say inner economy, local economy of freedom will be self sufficient, and what kind of, I guess, resources you'd still say buy from the outside?
Right. Well, so like I said, we really want to make it 100% sufficient. And this is also